Alrighty, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott, and today we are going to talk about self employment. Yeah, man, quit working for the man, be my own boss, have all the money. Yeah. Just so you know, I've had several businesses in my lifetime. This last time, I've been in business for about 17 years, being self employed. And yes, there have been periods during that time where I have taken other jobs and still kept my company going. But yeah, we've been doing it for about 17 years, my wife and I. And I wanted to talk about, kind of some of the things that you can look forward to being self employed, being your own boss, making, you taking all the money, making your own rules, your own policy, your own dress code. It sounds really good. And I'm not saying it's bad. Like I said, I've been doing it for 17 years and for the most part been pretty happy with it. But there's some things you have to understand. And I want to go over a couple of those and give you a little insight that maybe help you in your decision making, whether you want to continue to work for somebody else or you want to work for yourself. The first thing is that you are your own boss. And that's good and that's bad. Being your own boss, you can set the rules, you can set the work hours, you can set the time off, you can set the vacation, you can set the sick days, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the other part of this is that being your own boss means you have to have discipline because now you no longer have somebody else telling you what to do, telling you to grab another gear, whatever. You have to do it. And yeah, you don't have to worry about getting fired, but if you don't put forth enough effort, you don't get paid. Okay? Um, and so you have to be disciplined. You have to determine how much work you need to do each week to make what you need to live. Yeah, man, well, these guys are making 50, 60, $75 an hour. So, I mean, I should be able to just have to work 4 hours a week and I'll get everything I need. Well, yes and no. People that work for themselves do charge more. And let's talk about that. Uh, your employer, whoever you're working for now, is paying a part of your Medicaid, Medicare that comes out of your check. He pays part of your Social Security or your FICA, and he pays a few other things. Okay? That's money you don't see, and that's on top of what he takes out of your paycheck. So when you become self employed, not only do you have to pay your part as the employee, so to speak, but now you also have to pay part of what the employer pays. So, in a roundabout way, if you look at your current pay stub and you see the FICA and the Medicaid, Medicare stuff, double that. Okay? The other thing that your employer more than likely pays for, most do pay, is they pay part of your medical insurance. And that's an unseen benefit you get, but they pay part of that, and then you pay the other part. When you become self-employed, you get to pay for all of it. Now, I said earlier that I have taken jobs while I've had my company, and I did work for the federal government for a number of years. And what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to retire from the federal government, and it allowed me to continue my medical insurance at the same rate as when I was employed. So that was a benefit. That's one of the reasons why I went back to work for a while. And when you're self-employed, there's nobody to lay off. And so when the money stops coming in, sometimes you have to go take a job somewhere. It's just, not everybody can have the gravy train. So another thing I wanted to talk about, I mentioned you can determine your vacations and you can determine your sick days. That's right. However, more than likely, in a sole proprietorship, there are no sick days. There are no vacation days. Really what it means is if you take a couple days off, those are a couple days you're not going to get paid. So, some people take vacations. We tend to take more vacations, but in shorter duration. Like we'll take a long weekend, and then we time it with our business cycles. We know when things kind of slow down in our business, and so we look at those periods and say, okay, well, this is when we're going to take a vacation because business is usually slow anyhow, and that just comes from experience. So, looking at that, like I said, business, being self-employed, it's kind of nice. I mean, you are your own boss, but then again, you are your own boss. Another thing I want to talk about is taxes. You're going to pay taxes. And you're either going to pay taxes now or you're going to pay taxes later. And when you pay taxes later, sometimes there's penalties and sometimes there's interest. So get right on the stick and pay your taxes when you're supposed to pay your taxes, because you have to pay taxes. In a lot of counties, you have to have some form of a business license. Maybe not all, but in most counties, you have to have some form of a business license to help track how much money you have made in your county so that they can collect their taxes. That being said, do not, and we'll say this again, do not, okay, 3's a charm, do not mix your business money with your personal money. Do not do that. That is bad voodoo, and that could end up getting you into a lot of trouble with the IRS. They don't like it when you mishmash your money. So if you decide to go into business for yourself, get a separate checking account and do your level best not to intermix them. Keep things separate and make sure you pay yourself. That you write yourself a check, that you take out the appropriate taxes. Because remember, if you cheat yourself on Social Security taxes, let's say, and this will be an exaggeration, well, I'm only going to pay myself $50 a week, and that way I can save on all my taxes and everything. Well, that's okay until it comes time for you to retire. Because guess what your retirement's going to be based on? Your Social Security check. It's going to be based on that $50 a week, which means your Social Security check is not going to be that big, and that means you may not be able to retire. Oh yeah, you'll get a Social Security check, but you'll still have to work. You'll be one of those greeters at Walmart. So pay yourself, put in some of your taxes, pay your taxes, and a lot of companies, they offer 401ks and they offer all these retirement plans. In general, and these laws change from year to year, there's not a whole lot of retirement planning that you can do as far as like a 401k. I think there's something that came out the last couple of years that a husband and wife can do. but make plans for your retirement, even if it's taking money and then investing it wisely in similar mutual funds or stocks like a 401k would, and that way when it comes time for you to retire, you could either parse it out on a monthly basis, or you could buy your dream home, or in our case, our dream manufactured home, you know, uh, and you could set yourself up for retirement. You have to think about that. These are things you have to think about because you are now the chief cook and bottle washer of your company. You are the CEO, the president, the boss. You are it. And so think about these things. And, you know, don't just think you're going to quit your job and become self employed and you're going to be successful. Does it happen? Yes, it does. Does it happen often? Probably not. A good rule of thumb is it's going to take you anywhere from, I'm going to say, 2 to 5 years to establish yourself in your business wherever you end up being, to build up your clientele or to build up your reputation or whatever. It's going to take a while for you to do that. And those first couple of years are going to be tough. When we first started, the joke was, yeah, I'm my own boss and I get to determine which 80 hours a week I work. And there's a lot of truth to that. Uh, because a lot of times when you are self-employed, and especially if your wife is your business partner, sometimes there's no leaving the job at the end of the day. While you're working your job, you're working it, but then at the dinner table, you're talking business. Sometimes while you're laying in bed and reading or whatever, you're talking business. You're driving in a car, you're talking business. It's a part of your life, so you better really like what you do. But it's not bad. I mean, you're going to have a paradigm shift. You're going to have to readjust, and you're going to have to take a lot more responsibility for your life. You don't go in every day and punch a clock. What you do directly to your business, I got an ant on me, directly affects you. And so it's an ongoing thing. Like I said, we've been doing it for 17 years. We are now in what I call semi-retirement. I do draw a little bit of a pension from the federal government. Like I said, most of that really just pays for my medical insurance that I keep. And we work, and then we've got plans, we've got goals on what we're going to do in the next couple of years where we can fully retire. That's what we're heading towards, is full retirement. We are semi-retired now, and someone says, well, why don't you just give it full bore for those last couple of years and retire a little bit sooner? Well, let me tell you a story about that. 4 years ago, my wife and I, we went on our 25th wedding anniversary vacation. I was working for the federal government at the time. I took 3 weeks off. And basically what we did is we took a road trip from Virginia, where I was living, out to Seattle. Beautiful trip, loved every bit of it. Hopped on a cruise ship, took a cruise ship up to Alaska, stopped at about 4 or 5 places on the way down for about a week, got back to Seattle, and then drove back. Again, beautiful. I got to see marvelous parts of the country. But while I was on that cruise, and this was an eye-opener, while I was on that cruise, it amazed me how many people had canes, crutches, walkers, wheelchairs. Twice, we were met at the pier by an ambulance. One time, the medical emergency was enough. where the captain sped the ship up more than he usually does just so we can get to port to get this poor guy off the boat. That's not how you want to take those trips. And we felt very fortunate. Another ant. Whew. We felt very fortunate that we were still quite mobile and didn't have problems other people had, that we could enjoy the trip. So that's kind of why we're semi-retired, so that we can still do things and enjoy things now while we're still fairly healthy, because really it's probably not going to get any better. And so if I go full tilt and then wait till I hit my full retirement age and then retire, well, who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Like right now I feel pretty healthy, but who knows? So you have to think about that. Anyhow, I hope I've given you some things to think about. Self-employment is not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, take the time and figure it out. Don't plan on, quitting your job, moving to a new area, setting up shop and be successful. It's probably not going to happen because you're going to make mistakes. You've got to build your clientele. People have got to know you, especially if you move out into a rural area. It takes people a while to get to know you. And then they have to have some frame of reference. Like if you're a carpenter, well, who'd you work for? Did you build any houses around here? Oh yeah, I built the houses with Joe Smedley's construction company, 2 towns over. Here's his phone number. He could give you a reference for me. You just say, I just wanted to try it on my own, and I wanted to become a handyman, so I'm out here doing handyman stuff. But I've got 15 years experience as a carpenter, and here are some references. It just takes time, and it takes everything, and you're going to make mistakes. One last bit of advice is make sure you keep good records, good financial records of everything you've done. Every bolt you bought, every dollar you spent, every dollar you've taken in, taxes you pay, taxes you owe. And then once a year, at least once a year, make sure, especially when you, at least once a year, and especially when you first start out, go visit an accountant and go visit a CPA. You could use an accountant for the in between, but when you first start out, go to a CPA. They'll help you set up your chart of accounts, which is all your columns for your money, and then they will help the accountant get you set up. If you use an accountant, you can use, if your wife's good with numbers, or you're good with numbers, you can do it yourself. And then you follow that blueprint that they gave you. And then once a year, you go back and say, I need my taxes done. Could you go over my stuff and help me prepare my taxes? So at least twice a year, or at least once a year, and twice the first year, you should see a CPA. And then it's up to you whether you want to use an accountant in between. If you're pretty good with computer skills, QuickBooks is pretty intuitive now. They're made by Intuit, so it should be. So that's my talk on being self-employed. You can do it, but just there are pitfalls, and just be careful. There's a lot of people out there willing to help you. Let them help you. So time's getting short. If you're going to move, now's the time to think about it. This second wave, we're talking about this second wave that's rearing its ugly head. You need to start considering, what are you going to do the next 6 months if this thing hits again? I'm going to say it again. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Can you maintain sanitary conditions? And can you defend your family? That's all I got for you. Stay safe and stay secure. We'll see you.